Okay, we are continuing in section 46. We're up to question number 276 today, and this begins a section here on sins of the heart. Sins of the heart. Now, we already had something like that when we were talking about, peace with our brother, and Christ is the fulfillment of the law. So we will continue with sins of the heart. We've talked about being a murderer if we have anger towards our brother. This time it's going to be with dealing with adultery. Okay, so something else I would like to mention, and I have it in my notes a little bit later on, maybe I should point it out every once in a while, is that these sections now, these parts of the Sermon on the Mount should be considered as an application of the Beatitudes. Okay, the Beatitudes check our nature, our relationship to self, our relationship with God, and our relationship with others. And so we want to take those attitudes, and now the rest of the sermon is an application. If you have all those things that are in the Beatitudes, then it will manifest itself in these ways. I find many times that I will try to analyze what's happening in sermons. I especially like to read sermons as opposed to listen to them or to watch them, because I like to try to see the structure of what's going on, because I'm always interested in the flow of an argument. Typically, when I'm preaching, I will talk about a problem. Then I will address the problem, and you should look for that. To me, if you know what you're looking for, if you can cue people in and signal to them what they're supposed to be looking for, I hope that helps them to tune in to what's actually being said. So whenever you come in, you say, well, pastor's trying to define the problem or the issue that we're dealing with, and then we go to say, well, what do the scriptures say about that as an issue? And so this is essentially what's happening in the Sermon on the Mount, and you can do this other sermons as you go to hear them from people. You look for what they're addressing, what issue they're addressing, and then you'll be able to follow along a little bit better. And so in this case, this is the application of the Beatitudes. If you are empty of self, then these next things will follow in your practical daily life. Okay, so we are dealing with sins of the heart, and we start off with question 276. What is at the root of adultery? And this is a very it's not one of your major teachings, but it is something that you would deal with kind of strongly, that preachers will deal with when talking about adultery and sexual sins, is the problem of what's going on in the head. And many times people think, well, if I don't do anything about it, then I'm okay. But no, we have to always guard the heart, because remember, it's out of the issue of the heart and then the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. And everything starts there in the heart. So he says, what is at the root of adultery? And it's based on Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 to 28. It says, you have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. And in fact, Tone touched on this Thursday night a little bit also. So the answer is B, lust in the heart. Okay, so what is the root of adultery? Lust in the heart. Okay, if you look at B, I see a correction I want to make on my notes. Okay. Okay, so sin is in the heart again, as the problem that Jesus points out. You look at it it's not having a physical relationship with someone. That is correct there. Okay. It is not just flirtation. Those two things, A and C, are outward. So flirtation, somebody thinks, well, flirting, that is innocent. Now, there's nothing innocent about it. This is a very significant principle, and gentlemen, I would like to encourage you to consider this. It is impossible for males and females to have a friendship. Now, I don't mean the type of friendship that is in a group setting and things like that. I'm talking about an intimate friendship, a best buddy. It is impossible for men and women to do that. And this is something the world recognizes. Okay, do you know what gets in the way? Sex, okay? That's it. Okay, just very obvious. That's the obvious answer. It's what you expected, and that's what it is. So intimate relationships, and this is going to be true of work relationships. In fact, this is one of the things that I think makes it difficult in the work setting where you have this, we've had for these decades now, the push for women in the workplace, and there is a dynamic that I think has got to be watched out for. I think there's all kinds of dynamics. There's not a situation of equality that's going on. People would like to try to reduce things down to, oh, it's just a question of, it's just a question of skills and management techniques, and it's like it's all technical. But whenever you have any social situation, you do not just have technical stuff that's going on. The dynamics of male and female relationships is very sharp, and so it's something that's got to be definitely watched out for. There can be some work relationships, but getting close is a trouble. And in fact, this is one of the things that is complained about as far as women for the workplace, is that they seem to be locked out of some of those male bonding times, those other kind of relationships. Well, there's a reason why. That's because men and women don't mix well on an intimate level. And so it's got to be something that's got to be guarded against. So flirtation is going to occur, and then the next thing you know, you're up before the Equal Opportunity Commission or something like that, or Equal Employment Commission or whatever it is out there, and you're getting charged with something. So we want to recognize that the reason this is a problem in the workplace is because it is a problem of the heart going to the issue of adultery. I remember Nancy having an employer who wanted her to go to lunch, and she's like, no, don't do that. Oh, what's wrong? Don't you trust the relationship, or don't you trust your relationship with your husband? Yeah, no, I trust the relationship with my husband. It's wrong to do. That's just it. There was other discussion that ensued from there, but you just don't have those relationships. Okay, so it's not just having a physical relationship, and flirtation is not innocent. Flirtation is not innocent. Okay, and then B, sin is in the heart. And you don't have to actually commit it outwardly to have sinned inwardly. Okay, question 277. How seriously does Jesus suggest that one should avoid sin, especially adultery? How seriously does Jesus take this? Matthew 5:29-30 says, and if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. So the answer is C. You should prefer to pluck out your lustful eye or cut off your stealing hand than justify your sinfulness and end up in hell. Okay, look at A and B. You should make sure to not go too far before repenting, or you should not worry because you can always be forgiven later. Okay, these are common attitudes about flirting with temptation and sin. One cannot just sin with the attitude that they can always repent. Oh, I could always repent. Okay? They're blinding themselves to the problem of sin so they can ignore the conviction against the temptation. If they blind themselves to the problem of sin, they can then ignore the conviction. Now C, look at C. Someone might ask the question, do I really have to cut off my hand and eye? Or eye? Pluck out my eye? Well, they're entirely missing the point. So what they should really say is, boy, this is serious. I'd better run from sin. No, you don't have to pluck out your eye or cut off your hand. Just use them the way they're supposed to be used. Don't use them for sin. Okay? And that's how seriously we should take it for fleeing from sin. Okay, question 278 is based on Matthew 1:18 to 19, Deuteronomy 22:13 to 13:27, and Matthew 19:3 to 6. Okay. First, let me read this portion here. Matthew 5:31-32 says, "It hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery." The answer is going to be, if you read the other scriptures, anybody know what the answer is? The actual answer is? Okay, it is B, during the betrothal time. You know, we get this from looking at Matthew 1:18 to 19, one of the scriptures there. It says, "Now the birth of Jesus Christ was on this wise, when as his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Ghost. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privately." Okay, so they're only espoused to each other. They're only betrothed to each other. And he was going to put her away or to divorce her. And so the answer is that she looked as though she had committed fornication during the betrothal time. That's when the divorce could take place. And you can pick this up. I'm not going to read Deuteronomy 22 to 13, 27 out loud. But it deals with that. I will read Matthew 19:3 to 6, that passage, to talk about how seriously God takes marriage. "The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause?" Okay, for every kind of cause that could be brought up. "And he answered and said unto them, Have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall twain be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not men put asunder." Okay, so clearly Jesus has only considered divorce during the betrothal time and not at any time. C and D, okay, the problem with either of these, when you've fallen out of love or when you fall into lust with somebody else, which is about the same thing, okay, either of these is the idea that marriage is a function of the emotions. Those are two emotional states. I'm out of love, or I am in love with somebody else, but I won't ever put it that way. I always say you're in lust. Somebody came to me one time and they said, "Pastor, I got a problem. I'm in love with this woman at work." I said, "No, you're not." He says, "Yes, I am." I said, "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." I said, "No, you're not." He says, "Why are you saying that?" I said, "Because what you are is you're in lust. You're not in love." Okay? Love would say that you are considering your wife and concerned about the best for her. Love would be that you would want the best for that woman at work, which is to not commit adultery with her, okay, and help her to find a man of her own. Love for God would be that you would have respect to him and not do this. Love for your church would be that you would not want to have sin in the camp. So you're not in love, you're in lust. It's lust. These are emotional concerns. Love, remember, love is not what, everybody? An emotion. All together now. Love is not an emotion. This is a lesson that I tell you, I think I say this so often. Does anybody remember me teaching about this like really regularly? It's a main teaching. Okay, love is wanting the best for somebody else. It is not an emotion, it's a decision. Okay, so during the betrothal time, that would be true. And some people, they're looking for escapes. Now, I will actually be dealing with this in more depth. I'll be going into the cultural background and how this was treated when we get over. I think it's when we get to the Matthew 19 passages when I get into it more. But we will have more to say about the Jewish background for this whole question of shall they get divorced at any time. Okay. Swearing oaths is the next section. Before I go on, anybody have a question or a comment? I believe I've got all the microphones open at home. Let me go make sure the microphones are open. Yeah, we don't have any callers anyhow. Everybody can click themselves on. Any comments or questions somebody would like to chip in here? Okay. Okay, swearing oaths. Now this becomes an interesting section. It's not the most difficult thing to figure out. A lot of this has to deal with the idea of taking the name of the Lord in vain. Taking the name of the Lord in vain, which is more than just using his name as a curse. Okay, so question 279. How did the Pharisees get around their interpretation of making oaths forbidden? Matthew 5:33-36 says, "Again you have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black." Okay, so the answer is, how did they get around it? It is, and it's going to be A. Okay, they could swear by lesser things than God's name. That's what they thought they could do. But look at B and C. Okay, they could be very serious when making oaths on trivial matters. They would think that would be, sometimes people think, well, that's one way to get around it, okay, about not making oaths. Or they assumed that God wasn't going to do anything anyway, so they could get away with lying. Okay, those are sort of two contrary ideas, but both of them are ways that people want to try to get around it. They both represent ways of taking God's name in vain. We need to teach that there are more ways than using it as a curse. When we suggest that God will back up our testimony, well, I swear to God, okay? When people do that, or something like, well, with God as my witness, or when somebody alleges they have a message from God, okay, I swear this is from God. That's essentially what they're saying. They're using his name lightly and in vain, or for their vain purposes. For their vain purposes. Okay, in order to back up their trivial thing there. Look especially at B. Sincerity and seriousness does not make something more true or meaningful or significant. So some people would say, well, of course it's okay for me to say it this way because I really mean it, or this is really important. It could be a trivial thing. Okay, that's the stuff of wannabe poets. Wannabe poets, people who want to have significance, they pile on adjectives and they add drama as if to make their cause really deep. You know, my poem is a really deep poem. Well, people do that with the things that they're swearing about. I really swear, oh yeah, no, this is really, I love it when people say, but never ever, okay, those are here and listening today, never ever say to me, Pastor, I got to be honest with you. Okay, doesn't that just jump out at you as a problem? I say, well, that would be nice for a change, I suppose. Is that what you're suggesting? Well, I hope you would be honest with me. No, I'd rather hear the lie. Tell me the lie first instead, okay? And knowing full well that even when they are honest with me, they're not being honest with me, okay? I really can't make it to church. Ah, you were really honest with me? No, you tricked me. You're lying. You could make it to church. What they're doing is they are swearing. And by saying, oh, no, it's really such and such, by taking that trivial matter and treating it more seriously, it makes it sound more passable. All they have to do is say, with God as my witness. Okay. Then you're really blow it. You just can't add something on to the trivial matters. I remember I was we had some play I got to be part of out in Bible College out west, and afterwards, there was a dinner for the whole cast and everything, and they had somebody get up into a skit. It was a dramatic reading, and it was about it was a great hit in its day back in the 30s, I think. The Three Little Fishes. There were three little fishes swimming in the dam. The mother fishy said to the, I should have the words in front of me, "Swim, little fishies, swim if you can." And they swam, and they swam right over the dam. Poop, boop, diddum, dottum, wadum in a chew. Boop, boop, diddum, dottum, wadum in a chew. Boop, boop, diddum, dottum, wadum in a chew. And it really sounded ridiculous. And they went through the whole song that way. And just, that serious, it doesn't matter how much serious you make it, it just turned out to be comedy anyhow. Okay? So when people are swearing, when they're really insisting on something, it doesn't make it have more value or more meaning. And that's when looking at B. Okay. On C, okay, people feel free to swear by God. I think one of the reasons, because they don't take God seriously. They don't really think God's going to do anything to them anyway. However, Deuteronomy 5:11 says, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain." You can be sure that no one gets away with this. Such preachers are soon held to be frivolous and vain, and they become the subject of all kinds of caricatures in movies. These preachers that they'll tell you, they got this word of prophecy from God. They've got all this, stuff from God. No, you can't escape and be able to swear by things just because secretly in the back of your head you don't believe in God anyhow. Okay, look at A, then, the answer. They could swear by lesser things than God's name. That's how they figured they could get around it. They could swear by heaven, they could swear by the throne, as long as they didn't swear by God. Okay, they got around this, was not by exaggerating the significance of the thing they were swearing about. Okay, but by de-emphasizing this, by de-emphasizing what they were swearing by. They calculated that they only swore by God's throne. They were diminishing the vanity of their oath. Well, I'm not swearing by God, just his throne. Okay. If anything, this might be interpreted just simply as being deceptive. They wanted the appearance of the authority of God while leaving themselves a loophole. Turn over to 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6. We're going to see something here. Okay. This alone, the Pharisees should have been familiar with this. You don't treat lightly the things of God either. They were thinking, well, I'm swearing by his throne. I'm not swearing by him. Okay, but the things of God are just as serious. Okay, God took very seriously the things that were associated with him. It was not acceptable to diminish the significance of those things that were types and symbols of God, because those things testified about him. In this particular case, in 2 Samuel 6, we've got the case of poor Uzzah. Okay? Uzzah merely reached out to steady the Ark of the Covenant, and God took him. Verse 6, "And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the Ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died by the Ark of God." See, the problem was that they were supposed to transport the Ark by staves that were passed through rings on the sides of the Ark. But because they did not respect the Ark, it led to Uzzah's death. And so the problem is that you're messing with the types. What happened to Moses when he struck the rock the second time? He was not held guiltless. Okay? The things, not just swearing by God, but the things of God are also holy and connected to him because they testify of him. Don't mess with the symbols of God. Okay, now, although we have a respect for those things that are dedicated for God today, we don't have quite the same problem. Okay, now we're commanded to worship him in spirit and in truth, but this leads to the truth in the next question about being flippant over holy things. Okay, just because we don't have an Ark of the Covenant, we should still be respectful, but not to the degree where those things are sacrosanct, as in like perhaps in the Catholic Church or something like that, the way they treat things. Okay, for justifying worshiping statues. Well, they won't say they worship them, but that's what it is. Okay, any comments before I move on from that question? Okay, then. Yeah, Brother Joe, go ahead.
It's not exactly your topic, but these days people do swear on Bibles when they go into a court. And
Yes.
I am reminded of the time when I was in college. As a journalist student, I was at the North Bergen courthouse. We were supposed to be there as a project to report on it. And this wasn't a trial, but there was a guy who was being directly questioned by the judge about that. I don't know what the whole situation was, but apparently it was it involved a car. I don't know if it was theft or if it was an accident or something. But the judge asked him numerous times direct questions, and he just kept hemming and hawing and just avoiding any answers. So finally the judge had him sworn in, and then after that he answered every question like clearly and directly. And I think that speaks to the power of, like, that is essentially, and that is an oath that we would use today in the terms of court. And of course, the penalty for violating that oath is perjury, and it is a punishable offense.
Yeah.
But I think for some people, even though they might not read the Bible or even consider the Bible very much, they still have a sort of a mystical, healthy respect for it.
Yeah, and in fact, I probably should have, considered this when making the notes up, but there is a question some people have about, should you ever swear on a Bible when you go to court? He says it's a different kind of situation than somebody just saying, I swear, to God, this is so. So what you're doing is you are essentially using God in that latter case, and you're trying to bolster somebody's impression by saying that God is backing you up. Now that's a problem there. In a court, you're not asking God to back you up. What you are doing when you swear in court is that you are declaring your accountability to God. You're not saying my statement should be taken more seriously because I'm using God. Okay, it is. What you're doing is you're recognizing that you are putting yourself in jeopardy and responsibility to God. So that is the difference between those two things, which would account for why they would all of a sudden be a little more holy. More forthcoming. A little more forthcoming, yes. Okay. Okay, question 280. I should make a note of that. Swearing in court. I'll add that onto the notes for the future. Okay, question 280. When it comes to day-to-day obligations, instead of swearing by things, what should people depend on? Matthew 5:37 says, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. So the best answer here would be? A. It is A. Their reputation as faithful children of God. Okay, we're not depending on God to cover our casual boasting. Okay, C reflects the problem of taking God's name in vain also. He is not obligated in some kind of name it, claim it, or positive confession thing. Just because we boast it doesn't make it so, and we shouldn't just be expecting God to cover our casual boasting. Okay, it's like, now I'm going to refer to the positive confession thing, but saying something so doesn't necessarily make it so. And we can talk about our righteousness all day long, doesn't make it so. Okay, so it's not asking God to cover our casual boasting. Positive confession, got this from gotquestions.org. Okay, this is a thing. Has anybody, you've heard of name it, claim it stuff, right? How many people have heard name it, claim it kind of thing? No, you never heard of it? Okay, it's a Pentecostal thing. You name it, if you name it, you can claim it of God, and He's going to give you what you call for. Okay, positive confession is similar. It's the practice of saying aloud what you want to happen with the expectation that God will make it a reality. Okay, it's popular among prosperity gospel adherents who claim that words have spiritual power, and that if we speak aloud the right words with the right faith, we can gain riches and health, bind Satan, and accomplish anything that we want. And this is something that actually goes out there. Oh, don't say that, because that's going to make it so, because your word is going to bind it. To confess positively is to speak words that we believe or want to believe, thus making them reality. This is opposed to negative confession, which is to acknowledge hardships, poverty, and illness, and thus supposedly accept them and refuse the ease, wealth, and health that God has planned for us. And this is associated with also people saying, oh, well, if you talk negative, you're bringing in the negative energy. You're bringing in the negative power into your life. Positive confession, negative confession. Okay, so it's not like we say things and then just and just depend on God to cover our casual boasting. Okay, look at B, people being impressed by how much you insist that you are righteous before God. No matter how much we might puff ourselves up before people, it does not make our case before the Lord any more significant. We can talk about how good we are. It doesn't make it so. Some preachers and others might depend on how impressive they are as they get power from people, not from God, because the people are supporting them. But it does not bring glory to God. So just talking big does not make it happen. Okay, in fact, sometimes this happens with evangelists. They have a special phrase for that, talking about speaking evangelistically. Okay, I've seen times when evangelists have come out of churches and they report about how revival broke out. And I'm thinking, no, it didn't. Okay? Revival didn't break out. People responded to your message. Okay? If revival broke out, then we would see it following up in the weeks to come, or even maybe in the days, or maybe even the hours that would come. Okay? But boasting about it doesn't make it so. Okay, A is the answer because it describes how simply living responsibly before God should be enough to gain people's confidence. Just do it. Let your yea be nay and your nay be nay. Just be responsible in general. Ecclesiastes 7:1 says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. I always love that verse. I like to, whenever I get a chance to use it, because people will say, why is the day of death better than the day of one's birth? Okay, because you have a whole lifetime to have made a reputation for God. That's why. Okay. At birth, there's no record. There's nothing that's happened. But if you can make a good name, then the day of death is better than birth. Especially because you get to go to heaven. Okay. Others would like to chime in there then. Anybody else? Anybody at all? Anybody at home even? Let's go to the next section about loving your enemies. Okay, let's get through this one, and I'm ready for the next two, but we're going to have to stop after this. Quite a bit of discussion here. Okay. How should we treat our enemies? I want to focus in on, from the harmony of the Gospels there. Luke 6:31 has this. Matthew does not say this. Luke 6:31, and as you would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. So how should we treat our enemies? See, with the love that we show our brothers. This one, I got to say, when I was doing the work from next door, that I could hear you regularly give the answer, so I could be able to move forward. And even though you were there, the microphone picked it up.
I got a big mouth.
Well, no, we got a good mic. You don't have it. No, we've got a good mic. Yeah, okay. Okay. How should we treat our enemies? With the love we show our brothers. With the love that we show our brothers. That's the way we do it. We use the same love for them. Okay, look at A. As they treat us, well, treating others the way they treat us would especially be a problem if God did the same thing to us. Okay? If God treated us the way that we treated him, we cannot truly condemn others when we are so guilty ourselves. How can a thief criticize a burglar? Okay, A speaks of our sense of retribution. Our sense of retribution. And this is something that appears in a number of places in the Gospels, that if you don't have a sense of mercy, then you can't expect mercy because you don't know what mercy is, that you can even ask for it. Okay? You can just as soon as ask for mercy as you would a baringala. Okay? No, I was not speaking Ilocano. I just made those sounds up. Okay? Sounded a little something there from the South Pacific. But the idea is that if you don't have a definition for mercy that's accurate, how can you even ask for it? You don't know what you're even asking for. And treating others as they treat us is a retribution problem. Okay. B, hold them off so they can't take advantage of you. This is a popular thing that people do today. I've seen this in a number of places, a lot of advice, setting boundaries. Yes, there are boundaries that are to be set, but what people mean by that is that you keep these negative people away from you, you don't deal with them. Holding people off so they can't take advantage of you seems like it's very smart. But this is a popular focusing on our grievances. This popular focusing on our grievances will turn us inward because we're focusing on a grievance. I don't want the grievance. I don't want this problem. I don't want this thing. I don't want it. Okay? You're focusing on yourself. It's turning you inward and creating an envious heart that sees the world as not treating us fairly, as if the world even owes us anything. When you're saying, you're not treating me fair, I'm going to keep you away, what you're doing is you're saying, I deserve more. That's the heart of envy. It seems that all we're doing is looking for our just deserts. An envious heart can always justify its jealousy of others. By keeping people away, we think we're avoiding pain, but all we're doing is living for pleasure. Stop and think about it. If pain avoidance is what we are majoring on, that is the equivalent of being pleasure-focused and pleasure-oriented. Love makes one vulnerable, as described in Matthew 5:39-47 in the harmony there. But I say unto you that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. It's one of the possibilities when you are dealing with people that you might get smacked. And the answer is not, I have my rights, I've not been treated fairly. The answer is, turn the other cheek. Okay? Try to find a way to work with somebody. It makes you vulnerable, though. If any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. Whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. That was something the Romans could do. They could take a Jewish citizen and they could say, you have to carry my load, but they were by law only required to go a mile. And they actually had mile markers, and so the Jew would take the load and plop it down at the mile marker. You can't make me go any more than that. And he says, no, you go with them twain. Okay, you're making yourself vulnerable. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. You've heard that it said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Does this sound like avoiding people? Does this sound like pushing them at arm's length away and keeping them away from you? No, it says open yourself up to them, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? This is the kind of love that Jesus extended to us. We crucified him, and he died for us and was raised again to save us. Look at C. C is the golden rule. Okay, with the love that we show our brothers, as you would that men should do to you, do you also to them likewise. There are similar statements that are made by other religions, but what is unique about the Golden Rule is that it is proactive. It does not wait to react to what is done to us, either in retribution or reward, or even by not reacting. It looks for opportunities to do good without respect to what others do or don't do. It just, go find something good to do. Okay? I shouldn't wait for Alex to be a blessing to me. Alex, you there? Okay? I shouldn't wait for you to be a blessing to me before I do good for you. I should say, oh, I've got this, Alex, what do you like to eat? What's your favorite food? Mac and cheese, okay? So maybe this week I should prove this out, and I should make some mac and cheese and take it over to Alex and say, Alex, I just know you'd like this. I know you didn't ask me for it. I know that you weren't sleeping during church and trying to be nice to me, okay? No, you were sleeping in church, so be prepared for the little surprise I put in the mac and cheese for you to get even with you, right? No, I shouldn't do that. I should just say, I know he likes this kind of thing. I think I'm going to surprise him with some mac and cheese. I'd like it if somebody surprised me with some mac and cheese. I think I'll surprise him with some mac and cheese. That's being proactive. It doesn't wait to react. It acts before there's even any call for any action. It looks for opportunities to do good without respect to what others do or don't do. Now, other religions are similar, but none carry the idea of proactivity. And you can look up the Golden Rule on Wikipedia and you come up with a whole set of things. And as you read all of them, every one of these statements are at odds with what Jesus was saying. Except for maybe Islam, but Islam would borrow it from Jesus anyway. Okay, in ancient Egypt it was said, now this is the command, do to the doer to make him do. That which you hate to be done to you, do not do to another. So there's like a don't do to others. But they say here, do to the doer to make him do. In other words, I'm doing it in order to make you do good. No, I should just do it just to be good. You see the difference? Okay. In Sanskrit, they said one should never do something to others that one would regard as an injury to one's own self. Okay, this is again the negative form. It's don't do to others what you don't want done. In Tamil, do not do to others what you know has hurt yourself. In ancient Greece, there were a number of different ways this was referred to. Avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. What you do not want to happen to you, do not do it yourself either. Again, the negative form. In ancient Persia, that nature alone is good, which refrains from doing to another whatsoever is not good for itself. In ancient Rome, there were those who said, treat your inferior as you would wish your superior to treat you. Okay, this is coming, actually, I think it was probably one of the closest forms that was to it. But no, this is go do good. Be proactive. Amongst the Jews, Hillel the elder said, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This is the whole Torah. The rest is the explanation. Go and learn. Buddhism, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. So you see, there's all kinds of similarities, because some people say, oh, all the major religions say the same thing. No, none of the major religions, none of the minor religions say the same thing. They said something similar. Jesus takes it way further, though. Okay, question 282. What proves that our love is real? It's based on Luke 6:32-36. For if you love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if you do good to them which do good to you, what thank have you? For sinners also do even the same. Going down there, but love you, verse 35, but love ye your enemies and do good, lend hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great. You shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the thankful and to the evil. Unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. So what proves that our love is real? It is B, when we love others who don't deserve it. Okay, A and C. Okay, when we love people when it is easy, when we love people through hard times. It's possible that someone has love at those times. It's possible. when it's easy or even though hard times. It's just that it's easily mistaken for loving someone because of what you can get out of it. So you really can't tell. There's no discerning thing there. But B, love works when we only want the best for others. When there's nothing to gain, then the only thing that is left is that we want the best for somebody else. Okay, so that becomes the proof. When you're despitefully used and you're loving anyhow, then people say, oh yeah, okay, that's the differential. You're not getting anything out of it and you're still loving anyway. 283, who deserves our love? Nancy deserves our love. Deserves my love anyhow. Okay. Okay, who deserves our love? Matthew 5, 46, 47, for if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? If you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? It is a process of elimination here. The answer will be A. No one. Okay. People who can reward us, or people who will reward us in the future? No. So no one deserves love. In fact, as stewards of God, we owe it to others to deliver the love that was given to us by God for them. And this appears over in Romans chapter 1, okay, about owing it to preach the gospel. Why? You see, we have this as something that was given to us to take care of. So God's love is put into our hearts so that we can love for Him. Not just love Him, but love others for Him, to love others around us. And so actually, we actually owe it to people to love them, because otherwise, if we're keeping something God has given us to deliver, we're thieves. We're stealing from God. He gave it to us to deliver, and if we don't hand it over, then we're evil stewards then. So it's not a question of anybody deserving it because of the reward we can get out of them. No one deserves the love. God deserves us to give the love. Okay, question 284. How does God demonstrate His universal mercy? It is C. He provides rain and sunshine on the face of the whole earth. And we've read that scripture a minute ago. Okay? It's not that He overlooks sin. That's not how He demonstrates His mercy. God never overlooks sin. Sin is never overlooked. Okay? It's dealt with. It's dealt with at the cross. So it's never a question of overlooking. It's just dealt with. B. He makes everyone happy? No. God does not seek to make everybody happy. Anybody have a clue? If God does not seek to make everybody happy, what does He do instead? He seeks to make everybody, what would you say? Holy. That's it. Good. Okay. That was going to be a hard one. I actually didn't expect that, but I was not going to be surprised if somebody got it. I would have given you the first letter. Yeah, He's not looking to make everybody happy. He's looking to make everybody holy. Now, if you are holy, you will be happy. Okay, you will have the joy of the Lord if you have the holiness. But don't make holiness, or I'm sorry, don't make happiness the thing that we're looking for. Grace is receiving what we do not deserve. Mercy is not receiving what we do deserve. By not giving us judgment, instead giving us the good, God demonstrates both grace and mercy. Matthew emphasizes the aspect of mercy in that the evil and the unjust do not get what they deserve, but they get grace instead. Okay, question 285. That's our last question. Good one to end with. How can our attitude demonstrate the perfection of God in our lives? And this is a very important word, perfection. This is a very important word. And we had this already. No, I guess we didn't read that particular scripture. Okay, let me get the scripture that goes with that especially. Matthew 5:48. Let me make a note there to make sure to put that in. It says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." Okay, the answer is going to be, anybody? A. By being kind and extending mercy to everyone. Okay, it's not by never sinning. Okay, Moral perfection is not possible to achieve by our obedience to the law. We can never achieve moral perfection. This is not talking about moral perfection. Okay. Also, look at C, by avoiding all commitments so that we can't fail. Well, taking no action to avoid failure leads to sins of omission. James 4:17 says, therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. So you can say, well, I'll just not commit myself to anything. That way I'll never sin. That way I'll achieve perfection. Now, already we saw in the scriptures there that you've got to make yourself vulnerable. You've got to open yourself up. You can't just keep everybody at arm's length. You just can't hold everybody back and not do anything and not make any commitments. The idea of perfection here is not that of moral perfection, but perfection in an entirely different sense. It is in a teleological sense. Teleological. So the logic of it is for the teleos, the thing that's in the distance. Every once in a while I'll give an explanation of this. We get the word telescope by the word teleos. Okay, it has an idea not of moral perfection, but looking off into the distance to see the end goal that you're trying to achieve. And so, when we speak teleologically of perfection, we're looking for the end goal of what we're supposed to be becoming, and which means we are fulfilling the purpose that we are given. We're to fulfill all that God intended for us to do. Ephesians 2:10, for we are his workmanship created in Jesus unto good works, which God hath there before ordained that we should walk in them. So what is it that we are supposed to be aiming for? Not being so sinless in our hearts. We are supposed to try to do that, of course, okay? But we're supposed to do this for a purpose, to be able to achieve God's plan of extending mercy to everybody. Okay, if we're to fulfill all that God intended for us to do, then we will be kind and extend mercy to all around us. And that's how we fulfill his purpose. So anytime you see the word perfect, there's a rare instance or two where it might have to do with, in fact, I can't even think if there's any at all. I will just say it always has to do with the idea of achieving that which you are supposed to be achieving and fulfilling your mission. So there. Okay, questions, comments, anything to add on? Anybody at home want to click on and share anything? Okay, well, fantastic. Then we will close with prayer with that, and we will take it up with question 286 next Sunday afternoon, because this Thursday is the Christmas Eve service. So next Sunday afternoon, we'll take up almsgiving and start in on prayer.